Greetings and welcome to another LG Arcade thing, and once again I find myself spending a remarkable amount of time messing with the Mister, the open source FPGA project that reproduces the functionality of classic game consoles, computers, and, most importantly for today's topic, arcade machines. Specifically, we'll be looking at the MisterCade version 1.1 from Mister Add-ons, a kit that provides all the appropriate connections for turning the Mister into a drop-in JAMMA arcade solution. Quite the appealing prospect indeed, especially if you don't own that many cabinets and want to try more games without physically swapping out original PCBs. Something that I often do with my Raiden 2 machine here, which I bought largely to play my Raiden series PCBs and other vertical shooters. I made a video about this already, and the cabinet restoration is still a work in progress, but it's functioning well enough to install a MisterCade and see what it's all about. Now, this is by no means the only solution for something like this, nor is it the cheapest, but owing to its innately reprogrammable hardware, Mister currently delivers one of the most appealing methods for accurately replicating older systems using modern components. And the most common Mister setup is optimized for outputting to a TV or computer monitor through HDMI or VGA, and uses gamepads, keyboards, mice, and other traditional input devices. This makes for a fantastic under-the-TV or desktop experience, and really that's what the project was tailored to provide from its inception, and I love this kind of setup. You may recall I've covered the Mister Multisystem already, which is one of many available options for putting together a nice practical all-in-one system. Check out that video if you'd like a more general overview of what the Mister project provides, but the MisterCade here takes things in a different direction, being geared strictly towards installation inside an arcade machine. So long as you have a typical JAMMA setup, all you need to do is unplug whatever PCB you had before and plug in the MisterCade. That's it! Beyond some configuration for your individual cabinet, which we'll cover in a bit, the MisterCade really is a straightforward option for converting an old-school arcade machine into an emulation beast. Of course, the concept of a modern drop-in arcade solution is nothing new, from pre-built multi-game boards and Pandora's boxes to the Phoenix Arcade SD and the various Raspberry Pi-powered options. All of which have their own positives and negatives, each one I can appreciate for their unique attributes. But the MisterCade has the distinction of providing the uncanny accuracy of low-latency FPGA-powered hardware emulation, an experience as close as I've ever felt to real hardware. So it's a top-notch choice for those seeking accuracy and longer-term preservation. That being said, let's take a closer look at version 1.1 of the MisterCade, which in the interest of disclosure I did purchase myself from Mister Add-ons, but the person who runs the shop gave me a 25% discount, no strings attached. Typically though, the light kit on its own costs $250 coming with everything required to augment your RAM expanded DE10 Nano. Or you can grab the full kit for $560, which includes the DE10 Nano and RAM module together with the MisterCade stuff. Granted, these are only the prices at the time of recording in August of 2022. Supplies of FPGA boards and other components are in constant flux, so pricing and availability may be different whenever you're watching. Hello to viewers in 2027, I really hope the chip shortage is less of a thing by now. Anyway, there are also some extras available, like the control breakout board for breaking out the controls onto a board using screw terminals and headers, as well as this remote, which Mister Add-ons kindly included here for me to look at. The remote supplies a handy way to access the most frequently used controls, like coins, reset and menu buttons, volume, and headphones, and even a tasty snack port for plugging in controllers using serial native accessory converters. Quite a convenient thing to have all broken out here so you don't have to reach inside the cabinet to do that stuff. And you can even hook things up simultaneously to have a sweet multi-display setup, an awesome option for capturing and streaming video footage directly from your machine. Now, the MrCade itself packs all the same functions too, of course, it's just that you won't be seeing it very often since it'll be tucked away inside the machine. While it's out though, let's take a closer look at this shiny silicon sandwich. Starting with the JAMA Edge connector itself, a defining feature here since it's the primary way it connects to an arcade machine. The majority of cabinets from the mid-80s onward used this JAMA standard, including my Dynamo HS5 configured as a Raiden 2 machine. Display, sound, inputs, power, and so on all connect through this one connector, so in cases like mine, as long as you have a pretty standard JAMA cabinet, then this is likely all you'll need. There are always exceptions though, like a kick harness if you have more than 3 action buttons for each player, and this comes with the popular CPS-1 and CPS-2 style headers. There's also 3V 15-pin RGB output intended specifically for multi-sync arcade monitors, not something used in my case since my standard res 25-inch monitor simply goes through JAMA, and it's distinct from the other 15-pin port, which is for consumer VGA or component cables with an associated header for changing sync options. Now, this jumper here is also useful. Normally the MrCade manages power by grabbing the required 5V from the 12V rail on your power supply, but moving that jumper makes it take 5V directly, which can be useful if your 12V isn't up to snuff and 5V is measurably within spec. There's also this handy selection of dip switches, which mutes the audio amp, merges 1 and 2 player coin inputs into one, and a free play option that makes it so coins are virtually inserted and start as pressed at the same time. A nice feature if you don't want to enable free play within every single core, though it's not always advised since it can cause issues on a few arcade inputs and conflicts with console cores. And yes, you can indeed play console games on here, which is just neat. I mean, it's extra silly here since I have a vertically oriented machine, but still, seeing an arcade cab boot up as a PlayStation at all is surreal. Then right below the JAMA connector are 2 external controller ports, HDMI out, and a secondary microSD card slot. Note that the system itself doesn't boot from this one, it's meant for convenient access to additional storage. The main microSD that contains the OS is kinda hidden away inside, since that slot is part of the DE10 and that's just how it is. Finally, on this side, you've got the connector for the remote, a user I/O port for connecting snack adapters or projects like the MT32 Pi, and line-level stereo output jacks, both RCA and 3.5mm, right below the volume knob up top. Nice to have since audio output through JAMA alone is in mono. And yeah, the rest of this is pretty much what you'd expect with your typical Mr. Stack. Lots of USB ports, Ethernet, power, video, and other things that chances are you won't be using inside of an arcade cabinet. I mean, maybe Ethernet, but I've instead opted for a USB Wi-Fi adapter as it's easier than routing a cable inside my machine. I've also got a wireless keyboard going too, since even though you can interact through the arcade controls, there are still times where a keyboard simply makes more sense, especially during the initial setup process, which for the most part is the same routine as any other MiSTer configuration. You copy a MiSTer Fusion image to your SD card, run that from the system itself, and let the update all script update all the things, and I gotta say, it's enjoyably bizarre to see a Linux command line interface grabbing things online through a mid-90s arcade cabinet. Feels wrong, but I like it. And once that's done, you're pretty much good to go. However, there are still a few considerations beyond the usual setup process. The first is choosing your main input mapping configuration, and that is how your arcade control panel will interact with the MiSTer. Multiple configuration files are available on the project's GitHub, so just choose whatever makes the most sense for your setup. Next is fast USB polling, which enables the 1 millisecond 1000 Hz polling rate supported by the MiSTerCade, maximally minimizing latency. And then there are display options to get things looking proper on various 15 kHz and 31 kHz displays. Which, that's easy enough normally. MiSTer supports native arcade resolutions and refresh rates by default, but in my case there's an extra step, since I've got a vertically oriented Tate arcade setup here. And the tube is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise, whereas clockwise seems to be the more common setup that many games default to. Thankfully, Mr. Add-ons provides a pile of files for customizing your system, so you don't have to edit INI data yourself, and in my case that meant using the 15 kHz Tate CCW settings file. I also needed to adjust the overscan a bit to make sure things weren't cut off, and then manually tweaked the geometry adjustment pots on the monitor itself, but after that, yeah, it's looking as it should. More or less. Like I said, clockwise rotation seems to be the norm, meaning lots of arcade cores are upside down on first boot. Just gotta look through the menu for each core and see if there's a display flip option or dip switch setting to make things right. And again, multiple configuration files are also provided online for us counterclockwise users. There are a handful of titles that are upside down for me no matter what due to their lack of settings, and that sucks. So I could physically rotate the tube at some point, but for now I can play the majority of Vertical Game cores as intended, and it is excellent. Especially all those awesome cave shooters that are now available on MiSTer, which are rare and expensive boards that I'll likely never get the chance to own. So here's the thing though. As fun as it is to be able to have all that the MiSTer provides inside of an arcade machine, it's also just downright costly for what you get. The fact is that at the moment, you don't get near the customization or versatility offered by something like a Raspberry Pi or a PC, each of which have JAMA interfaces available as well. While you can customize things like the background wallpaper and fonts on the MiSTer, that's about the extent of it currently. Nothing close to what can be done with all the feature-rich front ends and flashy game libraries available on Pi and PC setups. And the quantity of games available is comparatively small on the MiSTer at this point, with cores numbering in the hundreds compared to the thousands of titles emulated through MAME. It is still early days for MiSTer and more is being added constantly, but right now there's just a huge disparity. So, the value proposition may not totally make sense depending on what you yourself are most looking for. Like for me, the primary reason I have this cabinet is to play the Raiden series, and not a single one of those games is available on MiSTer yet. Maybe one day, sure, it's possible, but as I record this, it's not even an option since they simply don't have cores yet, whereas they're already emulated on other more affordable platforms. They're not 100% accurate, nor are they as low latency as what you could get on MiSTer, but at least they're there, right? So yeah, disregarding the relative lack of games and customization though, holy crap, the future potential is bright as balls. I love the MiSTer project and all it stands for regarding accuracy and near lag-free hardware emulation, and to have that packed into a well-built, high-quality product like the MiSTercade is wonderful, and I gotta give huge props to the folks behind it. But you need to adjust expectations according to its strengths and drawbacks alike. The price can be an unpleasant pill to swallow right now, though I'm hopeful that could someday drop as the DE10 Nano and other components become readily available again. We'll see. For the time being, I'd still recommend the MiSTercade as a product overall due to how nicely put together it is and how effective it is in what it offers, since it will only get better from here. And if you enjoyed this bit of arcade coverage, then do check out my previous videos both on arcade things and other retro things and things. I'm always doing things on LGR, so stick around for more things. And of course, thank you for watching.